Thank you.
He was trying the whole time.
Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance, please.
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Moran.
Here.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Here.
Alderman Govea. Alderman Lopez. Alderman Sullivan.
Here.
Alderman Clemens.
I am here. I am participating via Zoom. I can hear everybody. I'm in the room by myself, and the purpose is because I am taking care of my spouse who.
Alderman Sennett.
Here.
Alderman Jettie.
Here.
Alderman Tebow.
Here.
Alderman Clee.
Here.
Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Here.
Alderman Wilshire.
Here.
12 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Also joining us via Zoom is Mayor Jim Donchis, and with us in person is Corporation Counsel Steve Bolton. So I'm going to take a moment to recognize our colleague, Gloria Timmons, who passed away on Wednesday, October 29th, after our last meeting. What I'd like to do is have a moment of silence so we can remember Gloria. Thank you.
Thank you. You make me cry already.
Mayor Donchis, did you wish to address the board this evening?
Yes, Madam President. First, well, I'm sorry I'm not with you personally, but I'm here at my daughter's house and I'm participating by Zoom, and I will be back with you on Saturday. But, Madam President, I wanted to join you in expressing deep regrets for the passing of Alderwoman Gloria Timmons. She was a close friend to many of us, and had many, many close friends throughout the Nashville community. She had served not only on the Board of Aldermen for nearly 4 years before her passing, but also had been on the school board for 4 years. She, wonderful person, very warm, and just a big family. One thing about her that I wanted to mention, that she was very modest. She was a 25-year veteran of the U.S. Army, and something she didn't really very much. And I, a couple of times, said to her, especially in terms of her seeking elective office, I said, you should talk about that more. I mean, people really respect that. There aren't many 25-year veterans in Nashville, or some, but you're one of the two. Which she did a little bit, but I know she's going to be missed by many of us, and there will be calling hours and a funeral later, I think on the 23rd of November. And she definitely will be missed, as I've already said. But with that, Madam President, I want to move on to the election. I want congratulations to everyone who was successful in being elected to the Board of Aldermen. It is quite a privilege to serve the city. Certainly it's a situation where you, as a new member of the Board of Aldermen, learn a lot about the city. Some of your ideas are confirmed, some are not, when you get into the details. Also, though, thank you to everyone who sought election and for putting on the line and trying to help our community. And we do owe a thanks for the election to City Clerk Dan Healy and his staff for, again, doing a great job with it. Also for the election workers who essentially volunteers. They get a little bit of money, but they're not doing this for the money. So we have people working in every ward who make not only our local elections and national elections when they come around to make them possible. I wanted also to mention, Madam President, a recognition that the city received. There was a study that was published in the reported there that Nashua was found the best place to move to, the best city to move to in the United States. Now, of course, we've been fortunate to receive many of these recognitions and honors over the years. Best place to live in America, one of the best run cities, one of the safest cities. And we owe just a lot of different people for that, because the whole community together, and I think we're all very fortunate to be living in Nashua and have this as our home. Mr. President, I wanted to mention that we have on the agenda the confirmation of Diane Mulholland as the treasurer tax collector. She's been interviewed by personnel. You know, if you've looked at her resume or saw the interview, she's very well qualified. She's worked for other communities, Londonderry, Lebanon, before that, I believe, and certainly will do a good job for the city, and she's just waiting for confirmation before begins her duties in just a few days. So I hope everybody will endorse her, and so that we can get her as Ms. Mulholland as the city treasurer tax collector. Madam President, I also wanted to just run through some of the new items that are on the agenda. We have surplus, and you can, in the public hearings, you'll certainly hear all of the details, but we have suggested that a number of items be funded from the surplus. These in the various resolutions that are proposed and on the agenda. There is R25-215 would appropriate $3 million for special ed. Special ed expenses are mushrooming rapidly and are affected by the fact that the out-of-district placements are very expensive, and in addition, because unavailability of special ed teachers, the district has had to contract with various agencies to provide special ed education and bring people in, which is far more expensive than hiring employees. You'll hear the details during a public hearing on this, but I just wanted to highlight that. Also, $1.5 million for the capital equipment reserve fund, which is the purchase of equipment. We did budget $2.5 million for this, but various aldermen have made the point that rather than funding this out of surplus, it should be in the budget. So we we're phasing that approach in over 2 years. $2.5 million in the budget. Next year, I expect we'll fund the entire thing in the budget, and but in order to purchases, we need this appropriation of $1.5 million. There's also $1.5 million for the healthcare self-insurance fund. This pays for health insurance for employees. We do not have commercial insurance. We're self-funded, and we need to just have a balance there that's sufficient. And we just want to make sure that there's enough there to make sure, and money left over at the end of the year, but we just want to make sure that everything is covered and we can carry a balance forward into next year. Also, $300,000 for a resource center, which I will discuss in a minute. And you see the resolution R25-216. And finally, R25-222, I believe, would appropriate $325,000 to cover CDBG and lead program expenses. This will be necessary because it was a contingency plan if we lost money as a result of or lost funding as a result of government shutdown. We're not expecting, now that the government is open, federal government is open again, we don't expect that this will be necessary, and I expect we'll withdraw this, but it is there on the agenda. Finally, Madam President, I wanted to mention the reconsideration motion regarding O2579, which is the resolution which, it's ordinance 2579, which enables the police department, gives them the authority to resolve a homeless encampment at Pine Street Extension going into Mine Falls Park. I think we've heard from members of the community and the police department. Obviously, there's concern about this. But I just wanted to emphasize that we're not suggesting that this is in any way going to resolve homelessness. I mean, and make it so that there will not be individuals in Nashua. I mean, there's no question that that unfortunate situation will continue. But we have an encampment there at the Pine Street Extension that has grown in size. More crimes have occurred. There's been assault in the last week or so, another one. The police department feels that it is just a hazard to the people who are living there and people around the encampment. And without this ordinance, the police department, will not have the authority to be able to resolve it. Now, I wanted to stress that we want to handle this situation with humanity. We realize, and compassion. We realize that there are a lot of unfortunate people that are suffering from an unhoused situation. We, though, are taking efforts to help people as much as we can within our reach. We have been, the public health department with the community health workers, Bobby Bagley and Ms. Missy Lucioli have been connecting people with shelter, with housing, with care, with treatment for abuse. They have been out there every day, and they still are, and they're working on that, and they've helped a lot of people. But for every person that they move on to a more successful existence, it seems like there's another one or two people that are on the street. So I think at the last meeting we reached a compromise, which was to pass ordinance 02579, but also to resources to creating a resource center in addition to the warming station that we've operated for the last couple of years. As you can see, and I mentioned, there's proposed funding for the resource center. We are optimistic, confident that we can get a lease in the downtown area close to service, which we believe we can resolve and bring to you in the next few weeks at the most. So as part of that compromise from last time, we are moving forward with this resource center, which will help people during the daytime, provide another resource and location for unhoused individuals to go when they wish to or need to go somewhere during the daytime, and where they can connect with our own public health workers, but also with nonprofits and all of the people that are working on the issue of homelessness in Nashua. So I understand the many good people have reservation and objections to the ordinance, but I think under the circumstances, if we do not act or continue to act, encampment at Pine Street Extension will grow and will become more hazardous, and eventually there will be, I believe, more unfortunate situations there at the encampment. That's all I have, Madam President, and again, just go back to Gloria and say that, we're really going to miss her, and I know Ms. Gregg is going to be sworn in tonight to take her place, or at least that's my understanding, and, I welcome her, but certainly we'll still miss Gloria. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. Response to the remarks of the mayor, I'm going to start over here tonight. Anyone? Okay, seeing none. Recognition period.
None.
Reading minutes of previous meetings. There being no objection, I'll declare the minutes of the special Board of Aldermen meetings of September 18th and September 22nd be accepted, placed on file, and the reading suspended. Communications requiring only procedural actions and written reports from liaisons.
Communication has been received from Tim Cummings, Administrative Services Director, regarding communication on supplemental appropriations using surplus funds. Communication has been received from Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly regarding encampment data. Communication has been received from Laurie Wilshire, President, Board of Aldermen, regarding calling a special Board of Aldermen meeting on November 15, 2025, relative to the request for recount of votes cast on November 4th election.
There being no objection, I'll accept the communications and place them on file. Period for public comment relative to items expected to be acted upon this evening. We have 20 people signed up to speak. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. This is the 4th meeting now, maybe the 5th meeting, that we've taken public testimony on this issue. What I'm going to ask you tonight is, if you've given your remarks already, that you cut your remarks short and not go over the full 3 minutes, in an effort for anyone who hasn't spoken yet to have that opportunity. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to call the first person up. I need your name, please, and your address for the record. The first person is Miss Lee.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Miss Lee. Actually, my name is Lee Smedbine, but in this city, I am called Miss Lee.
Miss Lee, do you have an address?
No,
Okay.
I am a resident, occupant over at the Mines Falls right now. I've been there since May.
Thank you.
After the Orange Station closed. I'm here to state 2 points. The ordinance 25 and 79. The first one, I think this is out of the jurisdiction of this board. The prohibition of encampment on public lands and property violates the 8th Amendment and the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution under the clause of the cruel and unusual punishment. Robinson versus the State of California. Powell versus the State of Texas. How could we get the ordinance over federal law or over the U.S. Constitution? The city has no jurisdiction over the U.S. Constitution. The second point I wanted to... Thank you. The second point I wanted to bring to this board is that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 25, Paragraph 1, housing is a birthright. The right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and his or her family, including food, clothing, housing, medical care, necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, or other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his or her control. So based on this declaration, if this is the birthright, then this has to, there's no more, we cannot give a housing with a precondition that you have to be sober first or you have to be housing ready. It's a birthright. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Mead?
Good evening, Board of Aldermen, Mayor, and concerned citizens. I'm Susan Mead. I work at Greater Nashua Mental Health at 7 Prospect Street, Nashua. I'll be there 40 years come March. I've been the state hospital liaison for over 30 years, and I'm the PATH outreach worker, which stands for Projects to Assist Transition from Homelessness. My role is to actually help those who are not connected to housing or at risk of being homeless or homeless that have a mental health issue or mental health and substance misuse disorder. I can tell you, as a state hospital liaison, last month, there are 175 people up there. 100 people were ready for discharge with nowhere to go. They're spending $1,600 a day to live there. That's $16 million a year for 100 people that have no place to live. At some point in time, our community needs to recognize that true vulnerable people need our support. We have what's called transitional housing, but we really need group homes. Legislation back in the 70s created the 10 mental health centers. I don't think they knew about the cost of housing. Our folks make $800 a month. Where can you find that without a subsidy? We're really in recognizing the need to take care of those that are more vulnerable. And ignoring that, you're going to have more folks out in the street. I helped create the mental health court that is now called Community Connections. Judge Delanis, Judge Howarth, and when Judge Leary came on board, it mushroomed in 2005. We are now working together in ways we never have. We meet at the jail quarterly now with prosecutors, public defenders, judges, trying to recognize that 1 in 5 folks will have a major mental illness in their life. Given enough stress, I'll tell you it's all of us. Who hasn't taken their turn? Right? So I think we just need a little more compassion. I'll leave with, we're not here to see through one another. We're here to see one another through. It is also World Kindness Day today, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Appleberg? Mr. Appleberg, do you have something new to share with us tonight?
Well, I don't know. I would say I would like to be heard tonight. I don't feel necessarily that the listening has taken place. These people are here for the 4th time, as you point out, Alderman Wilshire. I'm sensing that they don't necessarily feel heard. So I do feel that my point, maybe, I don't know, you judge for yourself. So I'm Mike Appleberg, I'm president of United Way, and I would say before we consider ordinances that do criminalize camping, make no doubt that is exactly what we are doing, or sleeping in vehicles, we need to understand our actual local reality. In New Hampshire, the 2024 point-in-time count showed the highest statewide homelessness numbers in over a decade, with unsheltered homelessness up over 60% since 2020. We all know that we have one of the lowest vacancy rates in the country, just 0.6%. In Hillsborough County, a person earning a minimum wage can afford $780 in rent. A typical one-bedroom in our apartment community costs $1,500. Here in Nashua, shelters are full. We have no low-barrier engagement center, and we lack affordable housing for residents with extremely low incomes or disability benefits. Given this reality, when someone living outside is told, you cannot stay here, as I have heard several times this week and last, we lack affordable housing, and people need to know an answer to the question, where should I go? At this moment, Nashua has no adequate answer. We cannot tell people they can't sleep in a tent when we don't have enough shelter beds. And we can't tell people they can't sit in their car when we have no daytime center. And we can't tell people to find housing when it does not exist. Criminalizing homelessness will not fix these shortages. It will only shuffle people around the city, increasing public costs. As I've stated on previous occasions, we at United Way, along with many other community partners, many with us today, stand ready with volunteers and resources to support truly constructive efforts. In fact, we've already recruited over 35 volunteers just to support the overnight shelter. As a community, we can choose this right now as our time to come together and do the right thing for the long-term good of our community. I encourage you to be open to that possibility this evening with your deliberations in this subject once again, and not to disregard the many voices who have come here to share their perspectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Audrey Holt, maybe? I'm sorry, I can't read the last name.
I have terrible handwriting. My name is Audrey Holst, 105 Shore Drive. I am a community member here, and I've been down to the encampments and had some conversations with folks down there. And I think the thing that I just want to express is somebody who lives in Nashua and loves living in Nashua, and who's one of my biggest goals when I moved here was to be a part of the community and to know my neighbors. And being in this room and knowing that I have neighbors that are about to be criminalized for doing the best they can in situations, being down there and just listening to people's stories, I'm like, this could be any one of us. Any one of us could be in the same situation that these folks are in, and they need resources, they need the help that people are offering, and we need some more time. This ordinance is just not a solution, and I'm not saying anything that anybody else is not going to say this evening, but that whole question, like, where should I go? These folks are building community and safety and relationships and are taking care of each other the best they can with the resources that are currently coming in. And they're my neighbors, right? These are my neighbors, these are my community members, and as their neighbor, I don't want them criminalized. I don't want them broken apart and then sent to places that we may not be able to track them, we may not be able to get them the resources they need. It just seems like this is an issue that there are so many solutions being proposed that are not this one. And I want to be supporting and listening to the folks who've been working boots on the ground for years on this issue. And this ordinance just does not support all of the work that's been done up to this point. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Cynthia Whitaker?
All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. I'm Dr. Cynthia Whitaker, President and CEO of Greater Nashua Mental Health, which has multiple locations throughout Nashua, including 100 West Pearl Street, where my office is located. I'm here, of course, regarding the motion to reconsider the ordinance prohibiting camping. While we appreciate the 14-day notice provision as a step toward greater humanity, I'm asking you to reconsider the ordinance entirely because notice without alternatives still criminalizes people for having nowhere to go. Since your last vote, the fundamental problem remains unchanged. We still lack sufficient shelter capacity and affordable housing options. Giving someone 15 days notice to leave an encampment doesn't change the reality that they have no other safe legal place to be. While I appreciate the city's plan to open a warming station and setting funds aside for a resource center, the evidence on criminalization across this country is clear. It's costly and ineffective. Communities spend tens of thousands per person annually on enforcement, while people experiencing homelessness report that citations make it harder to exit homelessness. Enforcement simply moves people to more isolated locations where outreach workers cannot reach them. What works instead? Housing First, supportive housing models have proven track records of actually reducing homelessness while saving communities money. But these require us to invest differently. in low-barrier shelter options, in supportive housing programs, in resource centers, and expanding services, not in criminalization. Greater Nashua Mental Health remains committed to being part of real solutions. We're ready to partner in developing evidence-based approaches that address both community concern and root causes of homelessness. I urge you to vote yes on reconsidering this ordinance and to direct resources toward proven interventions instead. Criminalizing homelessness harms vulnerable individuals, perpetuates poverty, and imposes significant avoidable costs on our city budget. Redirecting resources to housing and supportive services not only is more humane, it is also more fiscally responsible, with evidence showing better outcomes for both individuals and communities. Let's be a community that solves homelessness, not one that simply displaces people for experiencing it. Thank you for consideration.
Tanya Nisley?
Hi, my name is Tanya Nisley. I'm a resident in 83 Major Drive. I love that everyone keeps coming back here. I'm definitely hoping that you will reconsider this also and take it away. Just sitting here listening to everybody and listening to what the mayor said about Nashua being the #1 place to live and the #1 place to be, that's for a reason. It's because we do have community and we do have people that care. We have agencies that are literally ready to put their own personal time on the line to help people in need. And we need a city that's gonna support us and support the people in it in a positive and productive way, and not to criminalize people who have already been traumatized and punished enough just for being alive. Please reconsider, and please understand again in your hearts, people need people. And most of the people down there, they need handholders. They've been so traumatized that they have burned bridges. They need people that care, people that are gonna check in on them, and people that are gonna make sure that they get the care and that they need, so that they're prepared to actually be in a home and be able to sustain it in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Andrew Horn?
Andrew Horn, 34 Blueberry Hill Road, Amherst. President Wilshire, members of the board, thank you for the chance to speak. First, I want to thank the alderman who voted against this ordinance, and I want to thank Alderman Moran for his motion to reconsider. I was a field organizer in Nashua last year, and I've been out knocking doors for Democrats again this year. I've campaigned for many of you and for friends and allies. I'm here as part of the same Democratic base that's helped elect this board, and I'm asking you to oppose this ordinance. I know our side is divided on housing. A lot of Democrats are skeptical of new development after seeing projects promise affordability and deliver very little. But we have to deal with the reality in front of us. Rents are up, vacancies are down, and more people are living outside. The lesson from places that are tackling this is that we need both compassion and more homes. When a city adds modest, lower-cost options and makes it legal to share housing in flexible ways, it reduces pressure on rents and makes it easier to move people out of homelessness. When a city just cracks down on visible poverty without adding options, people don't disappear. They're pushed into more dangerous, hidden places. On ADUs, the state already requires at least one accessory dwelling unit per single-family home. That's a start, but Nashua still decides how usable those options are, how hard the permits are, what parking and design rules look like, and whether we allow other small, lower-cost homes. Boarding houses, rooming houses, small apartment buildings, and conversions of big older homes into safe multi-tenant housing. Those are the kinds of units people on fixed or working class incomes can actually afford. So instead of passing ordinances that make it harder to be visibly poor in Nashua, we should do two things. First, we should make the city more humane for people who are already homeless, more outreach instead of punishment, more low barrier shelter and services, and treating people in encampments as neighbors in crisis, not nuisances. Second, make it easier to create and convert housing. Explicitly allow boarding housing and rooming houses, legalize small apartments, and we want fewer tents and fewer people on the streets. We need more keys and more hands, not more citations and criminal records. I urge you to vote no on this ordinance and put your energy into those real solutions. Thank you.
Ben Heaney?
Hello, my name is Ben Heaney. I'm at 2.5 Verona Street. I'd just like to thank Alderman Moran for bringing this back to the table and listening to the community. You guys have talked about this for 10 or 11 hours. I don't think there's much more breath to waste on this. I'd just like to lend my voice to those supporting repealing this ordinance. And I'd like you all to think about later tonight when you've got $900,000 to literally build a roof, and when I'm sure that passes without friction. The deep irony of what's going on here. So thank you.
Tory Markowitz, sorry.
Hi, I'm Tori Markowitz, Victoria Markowitz. I live at 759 Grove Street in Manchester. And I live in Manchester because I haven't been able to find affordable housing here. There's a crisis and there's nowhere for people to live. I've already spoken in opposition of this camping ban. I wish I didn't have to be here again speaking in opposition to it. I think that we really need to be spending our time thinking about midterm and long-term solutions to housing, to the housing crisis and the homelessness crisis. The warming station and the resource center are really crucial stepping stones, and they keep people warm and keep people from dying in the cold, and it's still not a solution to the homelessness crisis. It doesn't create new places for people to sleep at night or for people to live and store their belongings and have a home. As some people will tell you, so a few of us went to the encampment at Pine Street earlier today. We met some of the people that lived there. I talked to a pregnant woman, a reverend, a veteran, a mentally disabled person, all vulnerable people who deserve places to live. We asked them what they wanted to see built in Nashua to address the homelessness crisis. And they said pretty much the same things as the public health department's been saying. Shelter beds, transitional housing, more affordable housing. And I would really just like to see the board prioritizing funding to build some of these projects so that we don't have to be here debating whether or not people should be permitted to sleep outside when they shouldn't have to be there in the first place. Thank you.
Annabelle Bonner.
Hello, my name is Annabelle Bonner, and I live at 2 New Haven Drive, apartment 203 in Nashua. I want to start off by saying good evening to the board and to the community, and also thank you for having this meeting. Our system is structured but under stress. Rising homelessness and limited housing options mean we need both long-term and short-term solutions. I appreciate the city's concern for public safety and health, but if we ban camping where there aren't enough housing alternatives, we risk simply displacing people and criminalizing poverty. I urge you to connect any enforcement of a camping ban to measurable progress on housing alternatives such as rapid rehousing, problem-solving funds, and safe temporary spaces. People shouldn't be told where they cannot be unless we are also providing somewhere they can be. A humane, practical approach helps both those experiencing homelessness and the broader community. While permanent housing takes time, we can create safe, low-barrier temporary options like sanctioned camping or parking areas. And the president already mentioned indoor warming spaces, but with sanitation, security, and outreach services. These reduce public health impacts while offering stability and connection to housing. Criminalizing camping is costly and ineffective. Instead, let's focus on harm reduction and service connection, using referrals rather than citations and arrests whenever possible. Finally, I encourage exploring vacant or underused buildings, churches, relocatable units, or shared housing to expand capacity quickly and while longer-term housing comes online. In short, let's ensure our policies reflect both accountability and compassion, balancing public safety with a basic dignity of ensuring everyone has somewhere safe to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Haria Shams.
Thank you. My name's Arya Shams. Thank you so much for having me. I'm in Ward 8, Royal Crest. And there's so many, I had something prepared. Everyone's pretty much covered what I was going to say. Some stats. When I moved back home, I grew up in Pelham, New Hampshire, which is like right next door. And when I moved back to Nashua in 2020, I was so happy to leave LA during COVID. I was paying $1,500 a month for a 2-bedroom. This state has 0.6% vacancy rate. As a response to that, what we decided to do as a state is pass HB 60, which is no fault eviction. So now with no vacancy, no rent control, no fault eviction, you've basically legalized forced displacement, and this case right here is criminalizing poverty. If you're talking about crime in this area in Nashua and the police is complaining about the crime, we're gonna be paying for that. We're gonna be paying for the police, the increased police presence as we continue to recycle the houseless back into the criminal justice system. They don't need fines. They need housing, not handcuffs. And that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Rihanna Laguerre?
Hi, I'm Rihanna from Haverhill, Massachusetts, born in Lebanon, New Hampshire, however. I have been unhoused before. I am not now, and that is such an incredible privilege that I have a place to sleep in, that I have a roof over my head. I can't imagine if the time period that I was unhoused, that I would be thrown out of the tent I was in, everything taken away from me, and then a fine on top of it. That is just the definition of beating somebody while they're down. And it's been like 10 years or so since I've been unhoused, and I've come a long way since then, but anybody can become unhoused for any which reason. And I just want to highlight that I don't think that is within the police authority to be able to criminalize people for just not having a roof. And I don't think people should be criminalized on stolen land either.
Dustin Gerstenfield?
Good evening, Justin Gerstenfield, 79 Gilson Road. As y'all are looking to reconsider this, I just wanted to give some reminders of numbers as we're looking at a housing crisis, and just remember what I said previously of you've only listened to half of the experts. It's time to listen to the other half of the experts, our public health officials, the researchers that have said that you need to have the hand-in-glove approach of having a place for all of our residents to go when we enact this. Our minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. If you work 40 hours a week, that is not even $15,000 a year. So how are we going to expect, if everyone in an encampment is working 40 hours a week, how are they to afford any housing that we have available in our city, even if they have 2 or 3 roommates available to them? So I want you to think about that when you're asking them to reconsider this bill of how many hours a week would people have to work. I did the math. It would be about 137 hours a week that somebody would have to work to make almost $50,000 a year on our current minimum wage. So I ask that you consider that while you're thinking about the reconsideration of this ordinance. Thank you.
Bob Keating?
No, my name is Bob Keating from 5 Coburn Woods Drive, and a member of Granite State Organizing Project. And I'm speaking in request to rescind the order about the camping ban. But first, what I want to say is something that I didn't plan to say, but we're in a more difficult time about housing. The HUD has released preliminary indications that they want to change $3.5 billion of funding, and some of that would be directly related to the COC monies that we get in the neighborhood of $2 million. And so our actions may be more influenced about what we can do if this goes through to protect those who are already in permanent supported housing, all that. So that's the framework. Last week, we had the strategic plan, COC, for ending homelessness. There was a lot of excitement, new committees formed. And thinking back of that, 21 years ago, we had a tremendous amount of excitement about our plan to end homelessness, a home for everyone. And here we are 22 years later, and we have not achieved that, in part because we didn't keep the focus on what Miles Pendry, who was a long-term member of Harbor Care, said when you were looking at what we had written. And he said, I get it, homelessness bad, housing good. That's the central issue. And we do that each time. So the ordinance itself, you've heard many, many different parts, but I want to add some different things. Nobody in the many conversations I've had over months have said, really, who are living there have said, close the encampment. Nobody has said that. Nobody has said that's the best place. Nobody would go there for, vacation. It's not a place, to be. People have chosen to be there because it looks like a better alternative to other things. So in wrapping it up, and I'll finish it up in the remarks after, at the end of the meeting, is that we have the resources. We have a budget of $360 million. We have the ability to translate the money that we're getting now, $30,000 for police, extra police patrols, to make that from 15 to 40 units people could move to, just on that money alone. So I'll end at that point in time, but I hope whatever you decide on this is that you focus on what we're going to do to protect the people in the most vulnerable, so that we become the city that is the best for people who are most challenged economically, mentally, and physically. Thank you.
Bill Molbeck?
How you doing? I'm Phil Molbeck, currently a resident in sober living over on Kinsley Street. Yeah, I would reconsider, due to the fact that me previously being homeless, only thing keeping me from being homeless is the past 6 months going through one of the programs out here, getting into sober living. At one point a few months ago when I was living in a sober living house, with the help of the OATS program, Bobby Bagley, Latanya, everybody over there, with the resources that are there, helped me stay in my living situation. I was able to, when I speak at meetings out here, I was able to share that information with other people getting help and everything. So, I'm grateful for that. And yeah, just the resource center, that's gonna work. I'm willing to play any part of it. I've lived in a similar situation out in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, at the Crossroads shelter. You stay overnight, you're guaranteed a bed. People can come in, put their name on a sign-up sheet, have an overflow department. It works in phases, and it does work. It got a lot of people off the streets. There was a time, I think it was maybe a couple years ago, there was a homeless encampment, same situation up in Somersworth, New Hampshire. That got cleared out. People had nowhere to go. Everybody flooded the streets. There's people laid out in front of Market Basket. Even when I go out here, I talk to people in the stores, cashiers and things like that, who also see this in front of the stores where they work, Walgreens, Shaw's over there and everything. And I know a lot of these people. I've been in programs with them. I've been out here homeless with them. I used to sleep in the alleyway at Temple Street Market and down by the falls. It's just gonna scatter people around, no one knowing where to go. I know somebody right now who sometimes sleeps across from Churchside Market next to the church, just because she feels like it gives her hope. And those are the things that when we're in those situations, and my homeless situation started back in 2016. So other than if I was, met up with somebody who luckily gave me a place to stay for a little bit of time, being on the streets, dealing with mental health, dealing with addiction, we want to get better. We can get better. We're not stupid people. It's just that we're broken in a lot of ways that a lot of people don't see, and we don't want to live that way. And some people just aren't ready. Some people just don't know the resources are there. Thank you. And that's all I want to say. I would definitely reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Cassie, Carol?
My name is Cassie Carroll, and I'm fortunate enough to live at 32 Boulevard Drive. I've been homeless. A few years ago, my young daughters and I were living in an RV in my mother's driveway, all because two idiots decided they wanted to try their hand at property management and bought the house that I had called home for over 5 years. They couldn't afford to do so without more than doubling my rent, but that didn't stop them. Now, I'm a homeowner. And no, I didn't get where I am by picking myself up by my bootstraps, because that is impossible. I also didn't get there by being fined or forced to relocate over and over again. The honest answer is privilege, nothing more. But no one has ever gotten ahead by being fined. You think that their living situation is a concern of public health and safety? How do you think they feel, having only a thin tent wall separating them from the outside world, from the elements, from the dangers of it all? You don't feel safe sending your child unsupervised into the park anymore? At least they don't have to live there. To place this burden on the most vulnerable members of our community is a disgrace. These people need a helping hand, but the only hand reaching out to them holds a violation. Rather than punishing those who cannot afford to live, we should be holding accountable those who make living unaffordable. The banks that hold a house off market to create scarcity. The landlord that overcharges his tenants because that's what the market will bear. The employer who does not pay a livable wage and in doing so lines his own pockets with the fruits of our labor. We work over 40 hours a week for billion-dollar companies and still can't make ends meet, and that is truly wrong. If any decision is made here tonight, let it be to feed and clothe and house my neighbor, for they are cold and hungry, and it is the only right thing to do.
Eric Pizzola? Eric?
Thank you, Alderman. I'm here to stand in opposition to the ordinance.
Your name and address for the record, please.
It's Eric, 9 Johnson Street. I'm here to stand in against that ordinance. And before I begin, too, I'd like to thank Alderman Lopez, who is the only alderman to come to the Continuation of Care Symposium last week, which was specifically addressing the homelessness epidemic that's happening in Nashua. There was a conference room full of experts, full of health experts, researchers, statistics, tons of people, and it was a wealth of knowledge. They were just saying every single thing you could imagine for helping solve this problem. But the number one thing that caught me while I was sitting there listening was no one, they were bipartisan, no one was standing in support of this ordinance. As a matter of fact, there was a lot of people pointing to statistics and data saying how this ordinance is going to hurt. And I would just encourage you that next time we have these work groups, come and listen to the experts, listen to the health officials, because they're there literally tirelessly every day, pumping through data, coming through solutions, working on issues. And I volunteer with the Granite State Organization Project. We're down in the camps today, and we were just talking to people, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you're displaced? Where are you going to go? And they were talking to all the social workers, saying how, you know, I've almost got my Social Security card. I've almost got my birth certificate. These are things I need to get a job. These are things that I need to get housing. And being displaced, they don't have a way to keep track of the social workers or where they're going to be. So you're just hurting them. You're setting them back further than they already are. Like exactly like my friend Bob said over there, no one wants to live down there. It's a horrible condition, but banning them and making them illegal is making the whole situation worse. And one last thing that I wanted to point out, because I'll just be honest, I'm kind of tired of it. the whole slander of it being a crime haven and homelessness being dangerous. So I back when I lived in West Virginia, used to work for the Bureau of Crime Statistics. And so I pulled up the Department of Justice's crime statistics hot map here. And if you can see all of Nashua, this is specifically violent crime. And almost all of Nashua has violent crime. So when we point out all the time that the homeless, oh, there's violence down there and we need to do something because of the violence, the whole city of Nashua has violence. If you look even closer to the river, there's more of a hotbed of violence than what's going on at Pine Street Extension. So please, when you try to slander those folks that are suffering enough, please consider that it's statistically wrong. Like there's more crime elsewhere than just that specific area. So thank you.
Can we please not applaud during so we can get through the public comment? We have still a whole agenda to get through, please. Chi H. Can we get your name and address for the record, please?
Hello, I am Kai H. Yeah, thanks.
Take it out so that you can hold it.
That's good. Hello, my name is Kai H. and I live here in Ward 6, 43 Caldwell Road, Nashua, New Hampshire. And I'm here to tell you why the law about camping in public is just so wrong. We don't have enough shelters and bed. We don't have enough beds and shelters. And if we don't have enough beds and shelters, where do people without homes go to sleep? Where? Public property is public, and people can't go into shelters, and public property is all they have left. And I think that having a place to sleep is a basic right for all people. What this law is doing is basically making people illegal. And what I've learned is that every human being is a blessing. That is why this law should be taken down and thrown in the trash can. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kim Hester?
I'm Kim Hester, 43 Caldwell Road, and I'm pastor at Christ the King Lutheran Church off of Broad Street. And I'm not sure I can follow what my 11-year-old son just shared with everyone, because he speaks from his heart. Myself and my husband are pastors, and we are often involved with people and in relationship with people who are unhoused. And he hears the stories. He meets the people, and he has relationships with them just as we do. And when he overheard us talking a week or so ago about this meeting, he said, "That shouldn't be." And I said, "Well, then you need to step up." And he did. And he tells me often that he doesn't understand how we can make it so that someone cannot simply sleep. And I don't understand that either. After how many years of education and experience as a teacher and a pastor, it's a question I can't answer. But what I do know that it is much more complicated than simply what our laws are going to be or not be and how they're going to make people less than who they are. It is a big problem, and the first thing we must engage is the homelessness first. Housing must come first. From there, all the other pieces, the hunger, the mental health, the jobs, everything else falls into place. But we have to start there. And until we get that, we're never going to come close to solving any of this. And it's only going to keep getting worse. And it's only going to draw greater divisions between people in our community. As it is, we're already divided. This makes it bigger. It is time that we stand up for our neighbors. It is time that we remember that our neighbors are human beings. It is time that we remember that our neighbors have hearts and dreams and desires. Let us not overlook the people who stand in front of us, who stand around us, who are part of who this community is. Thank you.
Sabrina? Sabrina?
Hi, my name is Sabrina. I am agent 7777, and I work for the President of the United States of America. I live at 5 Pine Street Extension here in Nashua, New Hampshire, and I have been taking record of how living conditions have been living in a tent on Pine Street Extension that is being talked about. And I think the major problem about living in those conditions and why I feel like it might be taken away is because there has been a lot of disorderly conduct going on. So it's been causing people to, forgive me, I'm autistic, so it takes me a moment to get this out. But a lot of people have been disorderly on Pine Street Extension, and it's been very unclean in that area. However, not everybody has acted disorderly, and I don't think it is fair to move out people who have been very orderly and very neat and have been very grateful of the resources that have been freely given, like being able to be on Pine Street Extension with a tent for free camping and free items that people may need on Sundays at the library that people have offered up. However, some have taken advantage of that and made that area very disorderly. So if you're going to move anybody out of that area, I would say make sure you know who you're moving out. And don't move out the people who have actually been clean and care about, hey, we were given a free space. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. Communications requiring final approval?
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donches regarding multi-year contract award software subscription Placer AI.
Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam President. I motion to accept, place on file, and approve the multi-year renewal for the continued operation of Placer AI with Placer Labs Incorporated in the amount of $55,938. Funding will be through Department 120 Technology Maintenance. Fund, General Fund, 55 other services. By roll call, please.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
13 yeas, 0 nays.
And that motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donches regarding multi-year contract award, lead paint inspection, risk assessment, and clearance services.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a contract with New England Restorations, LLC, DBA Above the Rest, inspections for lead inspection and risk assessment services in the amount not to exceed $560,000. Funding will be through Department 184, Urban Programs Fund, HUD Lead Hazard Reduction and Healthy Homes Grant, 54 Property Services. By roll call.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
No.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes,
12 yeas, 1 nay.
and that motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding multi-year contract award, change order number 3 for sewer contract 1.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 3, 2025 sewer replacement project contract 1 with Crisp Contracting in the amount not to exceed $1 million. Funding will through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Bond 54 Property Services by roll call.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes,
13 yeas, 0 nays.
and that motion carries.
Communication has been received from Dan Healy, City Clerk, regarding results of the November 4th, 2025 municipal election for the City of Nashua.
Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion to accept and place on file the record of the returns from the municipal elections of November 4th, 2025, that the election results for the candidates named therein be declared final and conclusive to the candidates having received the best number of votes, case for the number of positions available for the respective offices, be declared duly elected by roll call for the ensuing term, with the exception of the races for the Board of Aldermen of Wards 1, 5, and 6, which requests have been made for recounts and a special Board of Aldermen meeting to be held, to be scheduled for Saturday, November 15th, 2025 at 9 p.m. in the City Hall Auditorium for the purpose of conducting a recount of the ballots cast for Ward 1, Ward 5, and Ward 6.
That would be November 15th at 9 a.m. Mr. Alderman O'Brien.
Did I say that?
You said p.m. That'd be,
Well,
a,
I'll
late,
show
that'd
up
be a
at-
late night.
Well, I'm not a breakfast early person. You know?
So you've heard the motion. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes,
13 yeas, 0 nays.
and that motion carries. Pursuant to Section 44 of the City Charter, Alicia Gregg will now come forward to take the oath of office as the new Alderman at Large. Come right up.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as an alderperson at large of the city of Nashua, according to the best of your abilities, and faithfully to the laws and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help you God. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Alderman Gregg.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Petitions,
None.
nominations, appointments, and elections.
Appointments by the mayor. Greeley Park Advisory Committee, Susan McNamee, new appointment, term to expire November 25th, 2028, 94 Concord Street, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03064. Mine Falls Park Advisory Committee, Laura Santerre, reappointment, term to expire November 1st, 2028, 18 Grasmere Lane, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03063.
There being no objection, I'll accept the appointments as read and refer them to the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee. Reports of committees. There being no objection, I'll declare the report of the September 22nd, 2025 Budget Review Committee be accepted and placed on file. There being no objection, I will declare the report of the October 22nd, 2025 Joint Meeting, Committee on Infrastructure and Police Commission be accepted and placed on file. Confirmation of mayor's appointments.
Greeley Park Advisory Committee.
There being no objection, I'll confirm the following new appointments to the Greeley Park Advisory Committee. Kathleen Lodi, 12 Bartlett Ave, Nashua, with a term to expire November 13th, and Richard Smart, 159 Searles Road, Nashua, with a term to expire October 14th, 2028. Are either Ms. Lodi or Mr. Smart here with us this evening? Please come forward to take the oath. And while you're on your way, thank you for your willingness to serve.
Will you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent upon you as a member of the Greeley Park Advisory Committee, according to the best of your abilities and agreeably to the rules and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help you God?
Amen, and I do.
Historic District Commission.
There being no objection, I'll confirm the following new alternate appointment of Michelle Ernest, 40 Concord Street, Nashua, with a term to expire November 11th, 2028, to the Historic District Commission. Is Michelle Ernest here with us this evening? Please come forward for the oath of office. And thank you, too, for your willingness to serve.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent upon you as an alternate member to the Historic District Commission of the City of Nashua, according to the best of your abilities and agreeably to the rules and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help you God? Thank you.
Nashua Housing and Redevelopment Authority.
There being no objection, I'll confirm the following reappointment of Thomas Monahan, 28 Swart Terrace, Nashua, with a term to expire October 14th, 2030, to the Nashua Housing and Redevelopment Authority. I don't see Mr. Monahan in the house. He will be sworn in at a later date.
Planning Board.
There being no objection, I will confirm the following new alternate appointment of Benjamin Zoller, 2 Pasadena Ave, Nashua, with a term to expire November 11th, 2028, to the Planning Board. Is Mr. Zoller here with us this evening? Please come forward for the oath. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent upon you as an alternate member of the Nashua Planning Board, according to the best of your abilities and agreeably to the rules and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help you God?
I will.
Thank you.
Treasurer Tax Collector.
There being no objection, I'll confirm the following appointment of Diane Mulholland, 4 Chesterfield Lane, Londonderry, with an indefinite term as Treasurer Tax Collector.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent upon you as the city treasurer and tax collector of the city of Nashua, according to the best of your abilities and agreeably to the rules and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help you God? Thank you.
Zoning Board of Adjustment.
There being no objection, I'll confirm the following reappointments to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Steve Lionel, 19 Cabot Drive, Nashua, with a term to expire September 30th, 2028. Jay Minkara, 13 Mount Pleasant Street, Nashua, with a term to expire September 11th, 2028.
Objection, and that's all.
Okay. Is it either Mr. Lionel or Mr. Minkara here this evening? Please come forward for the oath. And thank you for your willingness to serve.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent upon you as a member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the City of Nashua, according to the best of your abilities and agreeably to the rules and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Unfinished business resolutions.
Second reading of R-25-211, relative to the acceptance of a horse trailer donated to the City of Nashua Police Department by Friends of the Nashua Police Department Mounted Unit.
Alderman Dowd.
I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-25-211 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49. I'd like to briefly speak to it.
Alderman Dowd.
As you all know, we have a horse unit now in the city of Nashua, and the trailer is being donated free of charge to the city from the Friends of the Mounted Police. And we need to accept it as a city property because of liability insurance reasons.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
14 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution 25-211 is declared duly adopted. Unfinished business ordinances.
Second reading of O-25-056, rules for remarks by aldermen at meetings.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'd like to make a motion for indefinite postponement of O-25-056 by roll call.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
No.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
No.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
12 yeas, 2 nays.
That motion carries, and ordinance 2556 is declared indefinitely postponed.
Third reading of O-25-079, prohibiting camping on public property.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion to reconsider O-25-079 by roll call, and may I speak to it?
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm sure I've spoken to several folks directly or via other channels because we can't all meet, as Alderman Jettie points out frequently, outside this chamber to discuss city business, so that's why we're here. So we don't want to violate any right-to-know law, so we can discuss it right here with everyone listening in. But ultimately, I was asked by colleagues around this horseshoe to bring this forward, in addition to people that are here in the audience. I had a phone call with the president of United Way, Michael Affelberg, about the complexities of trying to get people's tires and wheels fixed on RVs and campers, which we didn't put a enforcement date on. It was effective. And there's complexities around even considering dates on the camping because of the parking ordinances where they're set up. So I had offered to bring it back for reconsideration, so potentially another amendment could be made to, as it was represented to me, to at minimum make a motion to amend to push the date out further on this so that nonprofits and charities that are here at bare bones minimum can continue to work to get RVs and campers that are still there. They have not different stories, different information received, different experiences from different people, different perceptions, but no one's been towed. And at some point, it's going to happen. And right now, all the crisis resources that they have available, after already being, essentially defunded over the last 12 months for other services and limited resources that they already have. I mean, Mike Affelberg shouldn't be pulling United Way money to fix someone's tire rims. I mean, that's kind of not something you would ever consider. It's nothing the city's not paying, but we're so apt to, tow it and store it and take it away and pay for it for the sewing. But it's impacting this current ordinance that's already in effect because they don't think they have enough time. They don't think they have enough time to do it all. And the winter is here. The holidays are here. Thanksgiving soon. Christmas is here. And some folks may have noticed over the past several months I'm a little bit different. One, I think I've had a very existential religious experience during the Jubilee and taking confession in the Vatican, and then experiencing just the experience of that. And I'm trying to live it. I'm trying to make good on my faith, and I'm trying to actually do what the priest told me for once. And one of the things that we talked about is helping the poor, what drove me here, because I have my own conflictions with my faith. And this is what I'm doing, because people ask, nonprofits ask, and I don't have a problem with it. And I don't care about being shamed. I don't care about any of that. And then Sky Meadow comes. Such a tragedy. And at that moment, I decided my life is here in Nashua for perpetuity, to do what I can do to help. And I know people say it's grandstanding or whatever, but I'm fundamentally changed. If anyone wants to have a conversation with me about that outside this chamber, be prepared to fight to the death on it. Theoretically, not literally, okay? I think some people they've expected different from me all the time because I'm just a different person. But since July and the tragedies that we experienced, and this is the second mass shooting that I've experienced in 2 years, and there's so much bigger things happening. Why does this need to be it? Why does this need to be it? And then I could go on, and it could sound paranoid about experiences of faith that I've had since then, even up to watching Sister Act over the weekend with my kids. And then explaining the religious fundamentals behind A Christmas Carol when we watched Scrooged, the Bill Murray version, the good one. Because I've said it here over the past 4 years, almost every Christmas season, you shouldn't have to be you shouldn't have to be supernaturally terrorized to help the poor people, okay? And I know that there's a fundamental belief in how it gets done, community safety, the police. I do not discredit anyone's version of that. But at the end of the day, a landlord got a special board meeting to speak directly without a time limit. A landlord downtown got a special board meeting. These folks didn't. And they got 3 minutes. Maybe 3 minutes at the end, too. But they didn't have a dialogue and a conversation, a back and forth. Why this, why that? There's other resources there in the community to do that. We could have a special board meeting at the COC meeting at 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, but we didn't. So that's another reason we can continue to talk about it for as long as I'm here if it's practical. and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I just think, why are we doing this in the cold? You know, we don't have resources to help these folks right now, and the arguments I've seen on the other side are just as valid and practical. Those are the theories and arguments that you're firm on. That's fine. But I want to give these people as much time as possible because, unfortunately, it's a fact. A landlord and business owner's got more time with this board. They got a special board meeting. The lower income, unhoused folks and the nonprofits and charities did not. That's the power dynamic in the city. And I'll continue to talk about it to December 31st, 2025 and beyond in the city, as long as there's unhoused. And I'll be here until the day I die. I may not be a Nashua native, but this is now my home, and I'll fight for it the way I think it should be fought for, and I will work together for folks who oppose that view, because at some point, there's going to be a line that crosses that we can realize where we can help each other. So I appreciate just the consideration of putting it back on the agenda. I understand that people have said the same thing over and over again, but again, the landlords who jack up the rent get the extra time. You guys didn't, and here we are. And so I hope we can vote for reconsideration to give my colleagues who want to offer an amendment the opportunity to offer an amendment. Thank you.
Alderman Dowd?
Yeah, I appreciate Alderman Warren's compassion and with people that are involved in this, and because I know he truly has that compassion. Most of what you were interested in sounded like 080, not 079. And in my discussions with the police department, if there's some reason that the item can't be moved, they will give them extra time. But the other thing, I was down at the encampment today, and I think the least compassionate thing we can do is to allow them to have to stay there during the winter without giving them someplace inside to get out of the cold and weather. Those tents are going to be crushed by the first wet snow we have, and unfortunately it's not too far away. We have places that we could set up for people to be inside, and we're not taking advantage of it. I don't know why. Daniel Webster College owners allowing rentals of those dorms. They're empty. And one dorm could probably handle most of the people at the Pine Hill Extension, and there's more than one dorm. I don't know why we couldn't spend the money to lease one of those buildings. We'd need the infrastructure to take care of the inside. But that's got to be a lot less expensive than, waiting for things to be built. The other place is Elm Street. We've got a year or two before we tear down that building. And there's all kinds of space in that building. And I brought it up several times, and they said, well, there's whatever reason. No, let's get these people inside. There's restrooms, there's water, there's heat. The only place there's not heat is the Chestnut Street Gymnasium. That's a whole other story. But the rest of the building, even on that first floor, more than enough room if we use that facility. And my God, if we had to use some of the old classroom space, why not? I've heard, it could be difficult when we ask them to move to someplace else, but that's another story. To me, I was down at the encampment today. I saw a man sleeping on the asphalt in a parking space in the middle of the bigger parking lot. And I looked at all those tents, and in a heavy snowstorm, they're going to crush. Are we going to wait till somebody dies? The police department aren't going in, and they have told me numerous times, they're not going to go in and arrest people, especially people that are down on their luck and are just homeless. But there are people in that encampment that are a danger to the people in the encampment and the city. Those are the people they'll go after. And they have said that they would feel very disheartened if we reconsider this now, because they have been called to that site 74 times since our first meeting. And I have all the reasons, so I'm not going to read them out, but many of them are criminal activities. And they can't respond with one police officer, they have to respond with several because of the dangers of the area. That's dangerous to the people that are living there, too. So, we've taken some steps. We're looking at a resource center, we're at the warming center, but we got to take other actions to get these people inside. And the reconsideration is not going to help that one iota. And usually, in my 14 years on this board, the only time we reconsider is if something drastically changed from the last time we approved the ordinance. And the only thing that's changed is that site, when I went down there today, is twice as big as it was when we started this discussion. So it's getting worse, not better. So we, as a city, need to take action to get these people someplace to live inside. Not intense waiting for a huge snowstorm or ice storm, and that can be worked with the Department of Health, and we may have to hire people to be resources at these sites, but let's do something to get these people out of the cold and the wet and out of that area. If we we just push this off, somebody's not gonna make it in that weather. Next thing we're gonna have is either somebody die or a fire. Neither one good alternative. So let's just stay the course for right now and take other actions to get these people someplace to live. Thanks.
Alderman Clee?
Thank you, Madam President. This is never an easy decision, and it's one of my colleagues in the State House referred to the decision that the 6 U.S. senators made when they crossed the line to open the government. He referred to it as a Sophie's choice, and that's kind of how I feel about this. It's a Sophie's choice. Do you help one or do you help the other? I think the best thing that's come out of this, and there's never a good thing, is that we are all talking. And as my colleague from Ward 2 just stated, yes, we have to do more. And yes, we have to find the housing for these people. Is it going to happen before December 15th? Probably not. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be working as hard as we can. I've spoken to public health, and I know they are working as fast as they can. The bids have come in recently for the resource center, and they're doing everything they can. The nonprofits are banding together, as they have been doing. This isn't something new. They've been doing this all along. So the bottom line is there's never a good answer. Do you help one group? Do you help the other group? We look at it as a humane thing to not leave people out in the cold. And as my colleague just stated, we have to get them out of the tents. We have to get them into better places to live, in a safer place to live. And as some of the people spoke as well, is we have to look towards low barrier or no barrier type of shelters. That's the only way of helping everybody. And thank you, Madam President.
Alderman Lopez.
So to some of the earlier comments made, I think a lot has changed in the last 2 weeks. At this point, I feel like I'm living 7 years for every day. But we never contemplated a scenario where SNAP would be shut off or that we would be millions of dollars short with our HUD funding. And I don't know if everybody fully grasps the implications of that. But the nonprofit organizations that are saving the city money, every single person that the United Way is able to help keep their RV is literally somebody that we're not going to have to try to dispose of that RV, which was covered in previous meetings. They're not going to have endless pools of money to respond to this. Once we put this into ordinance into effect, you don't unring the bell. And where it was pointed out that the comments regarding campers and RVs was more germane to 080 than 079, it was directly stated that the people who were in the RVs that we took ended up in the campsite. They're not unconnected. This is a series of dominoes that are being knocked over. And every nonprofit expert is telling you this is not going to work out the way we want it to. I don't believe, as Alderman of Ward 4, that we're going to see a safer community. I already see campsites being set up and moved around in even more obtrusive areas, and there isn't a solution for that either. You can give somebody a fine, but that doesn't mean they can pay it, and that doesn't mean you're going to have a reasonable turnaround for even being able to bring them to court. So there isn't a disincentive there. All there is a blemish on their record months from now when they're trying to get into programs and trying to access supports that they need. I think we have to accept the reality as a board that these larger regional crises are not going to be solved by the federal government. I don't think any of us really contemplated that a few of our leaders were going to basically ring the death knell of the Affordable Care Act because they want to reopen the government. These are big things. They're not just political talking points. They affect people who are unsheltered and people who are low income and people who may be right now fairly stable but are one medical incident away from being unsheltered and being homeless. So a lot has changed if you're looking, if you're seeing the things that are happening. I do think that there are a lot of people that are in need in the campsites. I also think there's a lot of people who aren't in those campsites right now that are unsheltered around the city that are still there. And I don't think that creating a additional ordinance to police behaviors is going to do any good when the issues that are being cited and the 70 or so infractions or concerns or complaints that the police have received need to be enforced in the first place. When the police are saying there are people in there that may be, trafficking drugs or, public intoxication, disorderly behaviors, those are things the police have the ability to intervene on. And when the fire marshal says, well, there's fire danger, people are having open fires and that kind of stuff, then that needs to be addressed. But that doesn't mean we need to create a new law that criminalizes people who don't have any other options or don't have any other solutions. I agree with some of the previous speakers that we need to really move on actionable items, like when we have a large building that's still being maintained, and we have, at least tonight, $300,000 that we probably won't actually need because our lead program continued. We need to put that where it will count, and we need to start looking at immediate solutions, because the Public Health Department has been clear that they need a resource center. They've also been very clear that we don't have enough shelter capacity. All the nonprofits have been clear that we also don't have enough capacity. The hospitals are coming forward and saying, where are people going to go when they're in crisis and they have nowhere to turn to? We don't have the capacity either. We need to actually take resources that we are using for strategic planning or long-term development or infrastructure development and putting them into crisis stabilization methods that we have right now. And we need to start knocking down those barriers. But how do we start knocking down those barriers when tonight we're adding one? If we don't even reconsider this, we're not listening to the people who are speaking. We're complaining about how long it took them to say things. We're complaining about how many meetings we had to do this, but we all just ran, well, most of us, just ran for re-election. This is the job. Like, we were elected to do this. And if we're not making sure that we're addressing our unsheltered people in an ethical and effective, pragmatic way, what are we doing? We're going to spend all this money on towing RVs and vehicles and trying to play whack-a-mole with large groups of people that we could literally do a better job of intervening with if we are able to continue doing outreach and engaging them with positive solutions. We're not solving the problem, and that's been stated multiple times. We are exacerbating it. So I think that needs to be remembered, that nobody here is going to have clean hands when we don't reconsider this or if we don't act on it, because the police are advocating for their role and their perspective, which is fine, but they're not the only voice. And we've been hearing from a lot of other voices. We need to give them equal respect. So I think we need to start looking at how these things are actually connected. And I don't think anybody should underestimate the amount of work that has been done in the last couple of weeks, specifically to try to address these situations. But if all these nonprofits are pulling together and all this attention is on that specific campsite, and all these people are doing their best to figure out solutions, and they're not getting it done, what is going to change by spreading that even further? And by signaling to all of these people that are trying so hard, the city is not a good partner, and it's not going to invest more, and that we're just going to kick the can down the road. The truth is, the only thing that hasn't changed is we still don't have the resource center, and we haven't even seen an actionable plan for increasing shelter capacity. So at best, we have the promise of, in a couple of weeks, we might have a place for people to go during the day where they'll have to stay awake, before they go to sleep, before they go to a warming station overnight where they'll also have to stay awake, and we still haven't increased any of the solutions that will be presented to them. I don't think we should move forward with this. I think we should reconsider it. And as a point of protocol, this is the time to do it. you can move to reconsider during the meeting or the next regular meeting, unless somebody at this board thinks we have a chance of suspending the rules and pulling the Susie maneuver, which if no one's going to reconsider it, then I don't think there's any chance anyone's going to suspend the rules. This is the time to talk about this. And practically speaking, if we don't talk about this, it's going to take effect in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Turned around, there are all these hands up. I'm going to start with Alderman Senate.
Thank you, Madam President. Right to the chase, I am going to support the motion to reconsider. Last week at the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee, maybe it was, I can't remember. I'm all off kilter with this odd schedule the past couple weeks. But regardless, last week I made the comment that I didn't want to see the conversation on this topic stopped now that we've passed this, this ordinance. And it was presented to me that maybe that assertion that could even happen was ridiculous. To that I would counter and say that there is probably certainly an appetite in this room tonight to say no to this reconsideration and move on to other business. When I think of this, and I think of how we got here, a little shy of a month ago, we were presented with this ordinance and a desire to push it through that night. First reading, second reading, a demand for final passage. And I thought then, and I still think now, that putting this before tangible results-driven solutions is putting the cart before the horse, and we're going to trip over ourselves. On the other hand, we have proposals that are out for first reading, and I know that there are legal machinations that require that they go this way, but we have results-driven solutions in the pipeline that are going to move at a trickle pace. So we criminalize first, and then we solve the problem down the road. I recognize that that's how the process has to play out, but the irony can't be lost on anybody in this room. Solutions later, wipe away now. And I think that the assertion that this is going to do anything is just ludicrous at this point. Without a place to go, the encampment on Pine Street Extension is going to show up somewhere else, maybe in smaller iterations, maybe in one large iteration, and then we're going to be focused there. People don't disappear. They're not going to go away, in spite of the quiet part being said out loud a couple of weeks ago that people should be looking for out-of-area solutions. This solves nothing. I know we say it's not going to solve the homelessness solution. It's not solving anything. It's taking out a leaf blower and blowing the problem around and not raking it up and actually putting it somewhere. I can't believe that we're here. I can't believe that there's an appetite to say no to this. Let's reconsider it. Let's hear the amendments that are being proposed and see what we can do to do better, because I don't think we did good.
We need to get through this meeting. It will go much better if we don't applaud. I understand that you're happy about his speech, but we need to get through the meeting. Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. I'll start by saying that I think a lot of the aldermen who spoke before me made the argument for reconsideration. And I think a lot of us, whatever side we have been on, understand that the timing just sucks. It's getting cold. We all walked in the Veterans Day Parade a couple days ago. It was snowing. It was cold. So we have that timing issue, but also the timing issue that was just talked about, that we are criminalizing homelessness ahead of actually putting solutions out there. And even when our sister city, Manchester, did this, they opened up a shelter. So when people in that encampment said, where do we go? They said, here's where you could go. We don't have that solution. We do not have it. It doesn't exist. Go to the COC meeting. There are not shelter beds. So I'm not going to repeat myself because we've been asked not to repeat ourselves. I know everyone knows exactly how I feel, but I am going to tell a story. After we ended last Tuesday, I had to walk to my car, and because there were so many people here, I had to park on the back side of the garage. And I walked past a gentleman who I've seen many nights sleeping on the backside of the garage with nothing but a jacket. And I had to walk by him, and I wasn't scared. All I could think of was how sad I was that I had failed him. And yesterday, I was at the BIDA tour. We went on a tour of all the places in Nashua that are so beautiful to develop. And one of the places we went was Pine Street Extension. And as I was sitting on that bus, I was talking to someone who was living in that encampment, who we are going to take her house. Her house. It is a place that she can be outside of those shelters, and we're gonna put it on Gilson Road under lock and key and tell her, good luck. I don't think that's who we are as a city, and I don't think that's who we are as aldermen. And I really hope you'll reconsider what this decision means in this city.
All right. Anyone else? Alderman Jettie.
Thank you. So previous colleagues have, Alderman Dowd in particular came up with some great ideas about where we could, we might be able to find places for these people to go, like Daniel Webster College and Elm Street. But then they're not available yet. And, when he also talked about how, we can't allow people to stay in these tents when the snowstorm might cave them in. I think he's correct about that. But, I think we have to first find a place for these people to go before we can remove them from where they are now. That's my problem with the current ordinance. And, let me just remind you, what's before us right now is a motion to reconsider. Now, a motion to reconsider is in order when someone who voted in favor of something has a change of mind or a change of heart and wants to change his mind, wants to reconsider it. And I think it's just common courtesy for us as a board to allow it to be reconsidered. We haven't heard, there was mention of an amendment. We haven't heard what that amendment is going to be, to just, not agree to reconsider, to allow that amendment to be made, to even hear what it's about, doesn't seem very collegial to me. So I would encourage my colleagues to at least vote to reconsider it, and then let's hear what the amendment that's being proposed might be, and then let's take it one step at a time. So I encourage people to vote to reconsider as a courtesy to the person who has had a change of mind or heart. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam President. I wasn't going to really get into this. I've heard it before, quite extensively. In my Committee of Infrastructure, I had everybody there, city directors and everything else to discuss this issue. And what time do we work until? Past midnight, just about, pretty close to it. And so we made a recommendation. And then we went to the full board, and it cut, we did have an amendment that was put on that was a little bit lenient to it. And made it amenable that it did pass the committee. But when we got to the full board, the police identified that we really can't enforce this as it is written. And now it seems it's going to be offered with an amendment to write it again. When do you make the decision to patch the hole in the ship or to abandon it? How many amendments does this one little thing need? What I do know is this pesky little document that's called the United States Constitution. And we could give laws to the police, but it's up to them to enforce it. Just because we as a board approved the camping ordinance, there is a December date to it. start date. But I'm sure that they would say, yeah, they would wait. Yeah, I agree. The cart was put before the horse on this. I would have liked to have the resource center before we had this, but that's not the way it worked out. But here's the deal. I am not an enabler, okay? In my, experience, when you want help, you got to put your big boy pants. I could take it to the meeting. But you got to enter over the threshold. It's tough. I had to do it in AA, but I'm glad I did. The thing is, if we choose, what the consideration of this means we're going back to ground zero. Ground zero. And that's not going to help anybody. So the thing is, my objective with this, and keep it standing, is my hope that it isn't perfect, but it gives us something to work with. Now, part of the problem was with this board and the Committee of Infrastructure. We had grand ideas for the Pine Street Extension parking lot. But you didn't look past your nose, didn't you? Somebody comes out and says, oh, you got to put parking and charge parking at, parks. That wasn't the intent of the Infrastructure Committee. What this place, Pine Street Extension parking lot, would have been well-lit, monitored and everything, and maybe this problem wouldn't have existed or been minimal, to say the least, to it. But we have a problem, and in my 35 years, I have been punched by administrating Narcan because I destroyed somebody's buzz. But the thing is this, I want them to have a good and fruitful life, and I'll work very strongly to get that. It's not that I don't have any compassion or empathy. I am a Catholic. I believe in the word of my Jesus, too. But the thing is, you got to get them motivated to get the help that they seek, okay? And if not, I'll tell you, in my learnings and everything else, and perhaps my good friend that is a therapist can discuss the things of enabling. It's bad. And so therefore, I would want to give the help, exactly what some of you did say. But that's getting the help, and we're working in that direction. But to reconsider this, we're going back to ground zero, and I don't think that's right. We work too hard. We're on the right track here. Thank you.
Alderman Gregg?
Thank you. I wasn't going to talk tonight, but I think that, one thing that we're overlooking a lot of is that, and with all due respect to my colleague, I worry about saying, well, these people just don't want help or they need to pick themselves up by the bootstraps. This is not the right thing. And maybe perhaps this bill continues to be reconsidered and talked about it because it's not the right step. If it was the right step, it wouldn't have this much friction with it. I worry about the fact that this seems like a panic move. We have something that a lot of us do not understand. We have people that do not have a home. Well, they have a home. It's actually in a tent, and we can't understand that. Part of that is we don't understand the trauma that every single one of them have that has put them in that position. This is not a choice based on, oh, I'd rather just go live out there. These are trauma-based things. People who say, I don't want help, it's not that they don't want help. Anybody who works in trauma understands it's because they're tired of failing. They're waiting for a solution that can be handed to them and looked at. We have no solutions. You can't make a punishment without a solution. You will re-traumatize these people in a way that you might send them completely over the edge. That can't be fixed anymore. Our job is to represent every single person in Nashua, whether they have a house, whether they don't have a house, whether they're here working. We have to represent all of them. And a lot of the people that currently do have a house could be unhoused. Are we going to then traumatize them by saying, well, you can't have this one place? I understand that we have Mine Falls. It's my favorite place. If you saw the forum, that's my favorite place in Nashua. And I get to go there, and I get to walk, and that's like a nice place to go, you know, have the scenery and stuff. We have people that are fighting to survive, and we have to honor that, and we have to honor what their journey is in that. And I think we absolutely should reconsider this because we don't have it right yet.
Alderman Moran? Alderman Moran?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to my colleague at large for your comments. I appreciate them, especially for your first comments at the board. I also appreciate my colleague at large, his dedication to the city as a firefighter and putting his life in the line every day. He has experienced things that many of us have never needed to experience because he is one of the professions that is out there every day, just like the police, but also the nurses, the social workers. I don't have to remind the Vice President, but I ran a safe station here in Nashua and the mobile crisis team for a significant period of time. I got to know the former Chief Rhodes so well that he's now my insurance salesman for my business while he's doing a little side job in retirement. 3 o'clock in the morning, when at the time deputy chief calls you to say there's someone that's at the fire station who needs addiction treatment, and there's no one available, you go, whether you're the program manager, the director, or the CEO. Oftentimes, they would end up at Alderman Lopez's shelter because we didn't have a place for them to go even into treatment. I've also Narcan many people. I carry Narcan with me daily. As a crisis clinician, I've been assaulted, I've been stabbed, I've been beaten up, well, tried, attempted. But those are so rare. I've done it for over a decade. It's rare that it happens. And it's part of the job and risk because of the thousands of people that I've helped in the decade plus I've been doing this. I'm talking about 3 or 4 experiences. And I know there's nurses and doctors and others that have been involved as well. But quite frankly, to see someone like Mr. Keating come up here so frequently over the last 20 plus years, dedicating his life to this and saying this over and over, longer than I've been here, longer than many other people have been here, and there's still limited to no action because we've allowed housing policies to price out the working class who are literally represented in every fashion here, that you have to have someone like me tell you guys that you're selling yourselves out because the next board, when it's filled with a bunch of 250K white-collar folks, you're next. You're the next enforcement action that's coming because they don't want you here either. And that's the type of policies that we have in this city. We're pricing everybody out. And the working class people around this board are doing it to themselves. Because maybe you can sell your house and move to another distant off land of Florida or whatever, but who are you leaving behind when you turn that property over to someone who can easily afford it because the nurse, the doctor, the nurse, the physician's assistant, the social workers, firefighters can't afford to live in the city that they serve. This is a constant problem with places like Boston and Burlington. You price people out. High-income earners live there, and who has to get on that commuter rail to come serve all those people? The healthcare workers, the service workers, the IT techs. Because where are they coming from? Outside of the places that they've been priced out to live. And then what happens next? Migration, right? They get priced further out. Of course we need a commuter rail, right? We need all those people and migrate them to serve the wealthy. I am the wealthy, and you guys are selling yourselves out, and stuff like this is doing it. I got to peer into the side of the wealthy. They could care less about you, and they could care less about me. I got to peer. They don't want me there. They don't want people who pull themselves through by chance from homelessness and poverty, food stamps, unemployment, etc., to get to where we are because we talk like this. When you grow up in poverty, homeless, in housing, you talk like this. They don't want to hear you talk like this. They want to use Mason's rules, decorum, all these other policies that they put in place to silence you. And this is just one of those silences, because if it's not the house, you folks are next, in one way or another. It may not be that you're being criminalized, but we're going to have people just evicted, moved on, moved out, and next thing you know, people have called this place their home for generations. They'll be living, I don't know, Colebrook, maybe? That's probably the next affordable place to live. Thank you.
Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, just two quick things. The current legislation says that on December 1st, they can give them, I believe, 15 days, if I'm not mistaken. It's a month from now. Two things. One, I'd like to believe that we could do something with Elm Street or Daniel Webster College in a month. And we may need the help of some of the organizations that are willing to help to set things up. But it would give these people someplace inside that's warm and safe. Just leaving them there, I know they have their tent's a home, but their tent could be destroyed by a heavy storm. And I'm pretty sure, in knowing the police department, if we said that, hey, we're working on something and there'll be a place for them to go if you hold off a little bit, that they would. And you know, if they don't, we can do something else. But, and the other thing is, I heard that somebody's talking about, we bring it up for reconsideration because there are amendments. I'd like to get an idea what those amendments are, at least in general. And are we thinking of making these amendments to the motion and keeping it in place with the amendments, or doing away with it entirely? Makes a big difference.
Alderman Moran, and then Alderman Lopez.
To Alderman Dowd, and maybe Alderman Lopez is a better person to answer this, but one of the thoughts that was proposed to me was doing it immediately following the holidays, January 2nd. Keep it in effect, but the effective date, similar to what Alderman Senate had proposed, was just an option to discuss. Whether that comes forward, there could be others, but that was one that that struck out to me, a practical one.
Alderman Lopez?
So it was commented earlier that maybe someone with who's a therapist could comment on enabling, and the reference was made that you can bring a person to the threshold, but they have to cross. It has been stated repeatedly, we do not have a threshold. There is not a place for people to go to. All of the shelters are capacity, the transitional housing programs are full, the warming station hasn't even come online, and we're literally already counting the cold weather emergency overflow beds that we only have had those for years because more things happen in the winter too, and it's more dangerous for people to be out. We do not have a threshold for people to cross at this time, and it's not enabling somebody to recognize that you can't push them somewhere where they can't go. It's showing compassion, sure, but it's also restraining yourself from being terrible. You can't enable somebody if they're not willing to take a choice they don't have. I won't comment further on that because as a therapist, I wouldn't necessarily try to apply enabling to scattershot 100 people who have very different circumstances and very different situations. That is the point that's been made time and time again too, is these are not all the same people. They're not all criminals. They're not all substance users. They have very different stories and very different situations, and that's what public health has been trying to do, and all of these nonprofits. The nonprofits aren't even all the same organization. They all do different specific missions to address specific populations, and they're all affected very unequally by changes in public policy, which is right now really, really unwelcoming to anybody. So I don't think there is a threshold for people to cross into. I don't think we can look for any better angels in the near term. And I don't want to be unfairly critical, but it was also mentioned that earlier this year an attempt was made to put parking meters into Pine Street Extension to light it up. I pointed out at the time we can light that parking lot up anytime we want to. We have that in the budget. We don't need to put parking meters in front of Greater National Mental Health, in front of churches, in front of Hearts Peer Support, and start charging people for the opportunity to have lights. But what was evident is there's a lot of development happening in that area. NIMCO's been pulled down, and we're putting in a new housing program. That same developer also bought another building in the immediate area. BIDA is giving tours of that area because they want to develop it. It's what they do. So it doesn't take a genius to realize that that area is very interesting to people with money and people with resources. We don't have a solution for homelessness right now. We don't even have a compassionate contingency plan for what to do if the police do go out and try to do any part of their job. What we do have is a lot of people who would love for legislation and ordinances and political support to allow for more areas to be developed. And that's not going to make Mine Fall any nicer as an area. It's not going to make our community any safer over the next couple of months. Saying we didn't see past our noses is kind of silly, because I'm legally blind. I can barely see past my nose, and I could see where that was going. So I am concerned about the belief that over the next couple of weeks, we could suddenly, I guess, meet those three ghosts, see the spirit of Christmas, and open up a large-scale shelter, because we haven't been doing that. I pointed out 2 years ago, when Stepping Stones had to close its doors, that location was zoned for emergency shelter capacity, and I pointed it out to multiple city departments, and the answer I got was that is not where they would like it to be. Not public health, other city departments. And I pointed out a couple dozen times that the police training facility had electricity and water, and we could put if we couldn't use the building itself, we could have put the portable classrooms, and that wasn't what we wanted to do with it either. I don't have this optimism and this bottomless hope that things will change in a month. But if there's way more effective leaders than me around this horseshoe, then please take a step forward, because it's needed now more than anything. What I do see right in front of us is whether we should reconsider this, and I think we should. We should be listening to the public that's coming out and telling us this isn't a great idea. We should be listening to the partners that we have, the professionals that we have. I mean, Sue Mead has been working for 40 years in doing homeless outreach, and we're just gonna, okay, well, your 3 minutes is up, thanks for your time, but it's late. We need to start listening to these people, because they aren't just making this up because they're do-gooders or social justice warriors. It's because they know what they're talking about. I think there's plenty of grounds for reconsideration.
Alderwoman Kelly.
I'm going to hold for now.
Okay, motion before us is for reconsideration of ordinance 25079. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
No.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
No.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
No.
Alderman Clements.
No.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
No.
Alderman Clee.
No.
Alderman Dowd.
No.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
No.
6 yeas, 8 nays.
And that motion fails. New business resolutions. Yeah.
Shame. I would just like to say that I think we ought to.
Criminalize being human.
I think that we need to start working on finding a place for these people inside as fast as possible. And I think we need to work on the money for the resource center as fast as possible. We need to check with legal counsel, but I believe we could have a second reading.
Legal counsel's opinion is you're out of order. There's nothing on the floor.
Right.
First reading of R-25-214, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $59,499.98 of unanticipated revenue from the United States Internal Revenue Service into the Capital Equipment Reserve Fund.
Additional sponsors? Alderman O'Brien? Alderman O'Brien? I'm sorry. Who are you pointing at? Was that Alderman Clemmons?
Clemmons, yes.
Alderman Clemmons? Alderman Moran? Alderman Clee? Alderman Dowd. Given its first reading, I'll send that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber.
First reading of R-25-215, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $3 million of assigned fund balance into Fund 7074, Special Education Expendable Trust Fund.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Gregg, Alderman Moran, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Senate, Alderman Clee, Alderman Dowd, Alderman Kelly, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber.
First reading of R-25-216, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $300,000 of assigned fund balance into anticipated Fund 7090 Resource Center Expendable Trust Fund.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Gregg, Alderman Moran, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Sullivan, Alderman Clemmons, Alderman Senate, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Clee, Alderman Dowd, Alderman McKelly, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, November 24th at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber.
First reading of R-25-218, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $1.5 million of assigned fund balance into Fund 7026 Capital Equipment Reserve Fund.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Moran, Alderman Dowd. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. Mr. Clerk, you missed
Yes.
17.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's good.
First reading of R-25-217, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $220,000 of assigned fund balance into Fund 7080 Police Overtime Expendable Trust Fund.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Sullivan, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Dowd, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, November 24th at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber.
First reading of R-25-219, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $1.5 million of assigned fund balance into Fund 6600 Benefits Self-Insurance Fund.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Clee. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber.
First reading of R-25-220, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $200,000 of assigned fund balance into Department 194 Contingency, Account 70100, General Contingency, for the intended purpose of covering expenses to clean up Main Street and the riverfront.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Clee, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber.
First reading of R-25-221, relative to tax deeded property auction.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Clee. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Committee on Infrastructure and the Planning Board.
First reading of R-25-222, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $325,000 of assigned fund balance into Department 194 Contingency, Account 70100, General Contingency, for the intended purpose of covering community development block grant and lead program expenses due to the federal government shutdown.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Moran, Alderman Sullivan, Alderman Dowd. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber.
First reading of R-25-223, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $95,784.04 assigned fund balance into grant project activity 1092, fiscal year 2020 lead paint hazard control grant.
Additional sponsors: Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Moran, Alderman Tebow, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber.
First reading of R-25-224, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $900,000 of assigned fund balance into capital project activity, Police Department roof repair and replacement.
Additional sponsors: Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Clee, Alderman Dowd, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. New business ordinances.
First reading of O-25-082, regarding proposals for the development of city-owned real property.
Additional sponsors: Alderman Lopez. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee. New business motions. Oh, Alderman Moran.
It's me again.
It's you again.
Yes, as always. I say that with jest. I'd like to make a motion to refer the proposals of the development and sale and disposition of property at Elm Street Middle School to be referred to the Board of Health for a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen on which proposal, Penrose or LMG, is best suited to meet the 4 pillars of housing approach, by roll call, and if I could speak to it.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. As you know, the Board of Health is the only board with 100% control of the Board of Aldermen. We have complete control on who's appointed to that board, and they just issue advisory opinions. That's it. They look at what may be sent to them by this board for further review. This particular one would be the 4 pillars of housing, and they make an advisory opinion back. Is there, let's say, precedent for the Board of Health to do such a thing? Yes, there is. The mask mandates, the Kratom research that just came through and that we heard and amended based on their recommendations. Do you have to follow what the Board of Health advises? Absolutely not, because Alderman Moran, one of the first things I did was move to vacate the mask mandate despite the advisement of the Board of Health. I feel that as we are having the conversations about housing and the recent landslide of the question 1 that involved the Board of Public Health, that we should make more of an effort to involve them in matters that are so important to the city, like housing. And as I was meeting with Congresswoman Goodlander and Henry Ouch at Harbor Care, who's also on the Board of Health, who I also voted for, we're talking about how housing is health care. So it seems like it's a practical approach, a reasonable approach, precedent for it, and urgent, because COVID was very urgent. Kratom wasn't as urgent, though, as unhoused homelessness and the policies of that we're currently implementing in the city that makes one of Nashua's largest employers, Harbor Care, not be able to allow their employees to work and live here because they can't afford it, rather prioritizing different types of employers. And when I say folks that need to be considered, we need to look more at the 60% AMI people, and I think the Board of Health is in a position to do that. It can start here, they can continue it the next term, and you can take as long as you want, and you could say, there could be an argument coming forward that says, well, they're not going to get anything done next month. But just last week, as on the Finance Committee, I voted to support an Elm Street, survey or something, that won't come out until next board anyways. So we aren't going to have the information to make the final decision no matter what. What would it hurt to just send this to the Board of Health and get some scientific research on whether one is better than the other in a small faction of the overall picture of who is best suited to address the 4 pillars of housing of the 2 proposals? And I'd ask that you support it.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to stay off camera because my internet connection has been iffy tonight. Not as bad as last time, though, so that's good. I agree with colleague had just said in regards to why the Board of Health should look at these proposals. However, I think it's a little premature, and the reason is because we do need to understand what we're going to do with the Keefe Auditorium on that property, and whether or not we're going to move forward in some fashion with that, or if that's going to be redeveloped, or, you know, there's a there. I think this is something that I would absolutely entertain as we get more of a understanding of what we're doing with the entire property, because I do think that whatever we end up doing at the Keefe is going to have some impacts maybe on the way that those proposals were presented to us. So with that being said, I love the idea, I love the concept of it, and I'm sure that, you know, if this doesn't pass tonight, I encourage Alderman Moran to poke me, and I will make the same motion further down the road. But as far as sending it there tonight, I, in particular, cannot support that at this time. Thank you.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you. The only thing, I appreciate my colleague at large comments, and I'm not looking to disparage or anything like that, so don't take this as anything other than just a general comment on the time it takes to do the research. As we saw with the Kratom, it took about 6 to 8 months. If that does become something that the next board wants to entertain, it could slow the project down further. And it is practical to begin the research, and if that survey, study, that's the word, comes back and says whatever that the board wants to vote on, that too can be sent to the Board of Health to review. But I need everyone to understand, and I do appreciate my colleagues' comments, the research is time-consuming. The earlier, the better. Research and data is, as Director Badley is here, can explain, it's time-intensive to look at different studies, relate them back to a size and city like Nashua, demographic-wise, and make a reasonable recommendation. This is not a study of this virus kills, and we need to do this now. This is a thoughtful way of reviewing literature, research, and practice. And it's just very time-consuming. And just hearing that you or others would bring it back next, it just could further delay a project that's so vital to the city. And I hope the better effort and time that they have to hit the ground running, if this is something the board wants to do, they need as much time as possible, because at some point, someone's going to say, the developers need an answer. They need to put money down. And no one at that time, I see Director Cummings smiling, he knows. No one at that time is going to remember that Alderman Moran from previous term made this motion, because quite frankly, it was too little too late at that point. I don't know if we should get it that far, but I would, I still would certainly poke him, not just for that, for other things, and non-political things. I would definitely go out to dinner. My wife and I, Ben and Ashley, any time. So I'll be poking him about other stuff, but I think the best time is to do it now. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Alderman Lopez.
I would just ask, I guess either Alderman Clemmons or Alderman Greg, because she's on the committee. Is something fundamentally different about the Keefe Auditorium? Because I thought we literally put it into an ordinance or a resolution that we would be planning for that to be there, and I don't know if I missed something.
Alderman Clemmons?
No, you didn't miss anything, but if at the end of the day, we do all the studies, we do everything, and then this board decides that we're gonna cut down, then, you know, I think you've got another large space on that property, and I don't know how that changes the design plans. And that's really my only thought. I do, hearing about the timing aspect of it, though, has changed my mind, and I will support the motion tonight. So, as you can see, sometimes can change people.
Alderman Gregg?
Thank you. So one of the things we're working on that Keefe Commission is what does that look like and what do we need? And unfortunately, you know, if we can build out a theater that works for the community, we're going to need certain things like parking and stuff. So that will actually start to change things. And I think we've invested right now in, you know, going through with a plan to look at what that would look like and what that cost is. So I actually think it would be good to wait a little bit. The commission is really committed in this next month to getting together with the developer and making sure they know what we would need for the theater and kind of what that would look like, because as it stands right now with the 4 walls it has and the very small footprint it has is not really conducive to a functioning theater unless we diminish the size, which that's kind of part of the point of the Keefe. So there is going to need to be some expansion outside of what that footprint I think is right now. That's just my guess. This is not an expert opinion, but just based on what we're talking about, I think it would be good, since we already have that in process. If we get too many things in process, I think it could confuse matters.
Anyone else? You've spoken twice.
I know. If I may.
You may.
I would be remiss seeing Director Bagley and fearing that what I said may be taken politically. If I'm not sure if she could confirm or deny the time it takes to review research literature, especially when it's something so niche. She,
Good evening. Bobby Bagley, Director of Division of Public Health and Community Services. It does take a while to go through document research, best practices, so it's not something that could be turned around relatively quickly if we want to do a really good job with it.
Thank you.
Okay, you heard the motion. Is there further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
No.
Alderman Gregg.
No.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
No.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
No.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
No.
Alderwoman Kelly.
No.
Alderman Wilshire.
No.
7 yeas, 7 nays.
That motion fails. Okay, period for general public comment. We have a few people signed up. Miss Lee, it looks like she's already left for the evening. Bob Keating.
Bob Keating, 5 Coburn Woods Drive. Just want to highlight that I think there's a consensus here about that we need to do more, and we need to focus other ways. I've spoken about, most of you, more about the overall budget, but we have $360 million. Tonight, there was millions of dollars of supplementary appropriations that were directed to certain areas. And I think that's an impetus to be able to look what we can do, and that there are things from Elm Street to Daniel Webster that have been discussed. As I said earlier, permanent housing was what our plan was 21 years ago. That's ending homelessness. All the other things are important to get out of the elements and help people on their ways, but they're not permanent housing. So whatever we do, try to keep in that direction. And so that would be what I would hope. In terms of specific things, that we clearly have the warming station. That's incredible news, because that could have a lot of people go there. Maybe all of them that would want to could be able to be contained in there. I do have a caution that the health department, that their idea about the longer term program in terms of a permanent place, I think if I were to vote today, that I would see that as more helpful than the $300,000 for the day program. And that's most of the feedback, because when we get to May, when the warming station closes, then we're going to be back in that situation that we have much less place for people to go. So I don't know all this stuff, but if I was saying the choices is permanent and overnights is more needed here in the community. And I'm thinking long term is that we have a next budget coming up, and that if we put 1% of the budget there toward more permanent solutions, that would be $3.6 million. If we looked at moving toward 2% over a period of time, you double the numbers. If we looked at for a capital fund, we found $21 million that we bonded for the Arts Center. I think we need to think along those kinds of lines for the most challenged in our community for capital lines. So thank you again for that. I thought it was, important what has continued to go here, and I hope that we take what's happened with the encampment and to move us forward to really come to better solutions for what the people in our community need. So thank you.
Gail Hoisington? Gail? Okay. Paige Boschman? Here? Okay. Sabrina? Also not here? Okay. Bobby Bagley?
Bobby Bagley, Director for the Division of Public Health and Community Services. And I just wanted to speak to the R-25-215 that is listed under the supplemental appropriations, and ask that this is considered as a positive for us to move forward with getting the funding that will be needed to get assigned into the fund balance for us to start this resource center. So we need to have the funding to get that in place. We do know that a resource center is not going to end homelessness, but this does give us the opportunity to have a place where we can meet people where they are during the course of the daytime, have our community partners, as you've heard so many from, talk about supporting this effort as well. So this will give us an opportunity to start looking at some solutions for right now until we get to more permanent long-term solutions to address the housing issues that we are being challenged with within our community. So I do ask that that will be strongly considered for passage under this list of supplemental appropriations. Thank you.
Tanya Musioli?
Good evening, LaTanya Musioli, Housing Services Officer with the Division of Public Health and Community Services. Similarly to Director Bagley, I want to thank this board for taking the time to consider the supplemental appropriation for the Resource Center. I truly believe that it's something that our community needs, and I do think it's a step in the right direction to support our unhoused population and allowing them to work with service providers, be indoors, stay warm, get away from the elements, and just have an opportunity to move forward. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay. Director Cummings.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. I apologize, I may have missed it, but on the agenda that we have here, we have R25-211 relative to the supplemental appropriation of $148,000. Did that get approved this evening, and did I miss it?
It did.
It did?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
That ends our public comment. Remarks by members of the board. I'll start over here.
I'll only say that it's an honor to serve the people of Nashua and with all of you, so thank you.
Thank you for stepping up to do so. All right, Alderman Lopez.
I just want to start by expressing my condolences to the family of Gloria Timmons, and the many, 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 many friends and lives that she touched throughout Nashua. She will be missed, and I welcome my colleague, Alderman Gregg. I know it's not easy sitting in the chair of somebody who's passed tragically, but it did occur to me as she was remarking on that elsewhere that we're all sitting in somebody's chair, and we're all trying to take on the legacy and the heritage of the other aldermen that came before us. That's not easy. So tonight was particularly difficult for me. This is really one of my tentpole issues as alderman, and I think everybody here knows that. And I think everybody knows I'm not going to stop here. Maybe this particular avenue is closed, but I am dedicated to trying to help people wherever I can, particularly the unhoused, and anyone who's willing to or interested in making tangible efforts along those lines. I would welcome the support and the opportunity to work with you. I will invite all the Board of Alderman members to attend continuum of care meetings. It is not a hostile group. They're very happy to see people. They're very happy to share the information they have. And as dark as it can seem tonight, looking at all the things we couldn't do, the continuum of care is constantly showing us what we can do. And they're showing us how many people are housed, how many people are sheltered, how many people are moving on to housing and to other programs. So I encourage people to consider that and to get involved. One of my colleagues has mentioned that he really thinks it's important for us to move forward with a concrete plan for standing up more shelter capacity, and I would welcome that opportunity. I know Director Bagley has done research in that area. I, as was pointed out, managed the Safe Station program, which was a similar time of year. We stood that up during the opioid crisis the weekend of Thanksgiving, which is why I happen to know it's the longest weekend of the year where programs are closed. And it's important to have some institutional knowledge, and that's available through many of the organizations that are present. And I would definitely offer myself as a resource if there's any help needed in trying to figure out how to organize staffing policies or rules or that type of thing. If there's more ways that I can help, then I'm definitely willing to step forward. Thank you.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you. I have a few things. I wanted to, I don't know, for me it's a funny story. It's a great memory that I have of Alderman Timmons. There was one time she was holding a sign out at Ward 9, and I don't know what election it was, but I went to vote and I was in a hurry, and I ended up sitting there chatting with her for about a half hour. And it was great, and it was the most time I had spent with her ever, because she always sat either opposite of me or far away from me, and I never had the opportunity to chat with her. And I have to say that was the first memory that I thought of when I heard the news. But congratulations to Alderman Gregg. Welcome to the Horseshoe. Look forward to working alongside of you. And last weekend, I think it was last weekend, Nashua was the center of the boys soccer championship as Nashua South played Bishop Girton. I reminded my kids all the time when they played high school sports and most student athletes don't even get to play in a state championship, never mind win a state championship. So I think it's a great honor for both of those teams. But I do have to say congratulations to the Bishop Girton Cardinals for winning. Triple overtime, very, very exciting. And then I think this weekend we move on to football. So great sports. Love to see the high school rivalries come about in the city. I think that's great. We need more of it. This past Tuesday was Veterans Day. Nashua Rotary Club held its first ever Veterans Breakfast. Downtown we had about 70 people, plus minus. So we were really happy about the turnout. So Alderman Jetty and myself, I ate pancakes, a lot of pancakes before the parade. I didn't see you eat any, but okay, so I had yours. So it was good, but it was a good event. Looking forward to year number 2 next year. Thanks.
Nice. Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you, Madam President. Wanted to welcome Alderman Gregg. Welcome to the Horseshoe, and I look forward to working with you. I did want to, of course, mention that I am extremely upset about the loss of Alderwoman Timmons. She was a friend. She was a very resource, really, for me, for just different things over the years that, you know, particularly when she was on the Board of Education, I would go to Alderwoman Timmons to ask questions about what was going on there and different things. Always had a great perspective on a lot of different topics, and I'll just miss her candor. And so my condolences go out to her family. I did want to mention the election. I thought that it was very well. I want to thank Dan Healy for running and doing a great job, and really all the election workers across the city. I thought they did an excellent job, and of course the work's not done. This Saturday I will be there, and we'll all be there to do the recounts, and we'll put a final stamp on this election hopefully that day. Lastly, I want to thank all of my colleagues here on the board for their generosity in my time of need with my wife's illness and her hospitalization. You all have been fantastic colleagues, but more importantly, friends, reaching out to me, making sure that I knew that I was supported and that we were supported, and your generosity as well did not go unnoticed by my wife and I, and it shows me how blessed I am to have all of you as colleagues and friends. So thank you all.
Alderman Senate.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't possibly get through this portion without talking about Alderwoman Timmons. Like many of my colleagues, I probably have innumerable memories of her. But in the immediacy of learning that news, I didn't have one that jumped to mind. It was actually my wife that recounted a story from 2023. I can't recall if I was already officially running or if it was just the worst kept secret in Nashua. But we ran into Alderwoman Timmons at the Multicultural Festival at the Nashua Public Library. That was the first opportunity my wife had to meet her. And Gloria was instrumental in those early days in helping me recognize what the job was and come to the conclusion that I had the capability to be here sitting amongst you. And That's not confidence I carry with myself, ever. If you ever want to look up self-doubt in the dictionary, my picture is right there. But we ran into Gloria, and we got to talking, and she got to meet my wife, and she got to meet my son, which lit up her day. And Jessica made a comment along the lines of, well, if Tim wins. And Gloria got that look that I'm sure we've all seen before, that glare. And she told her, and these are her words, not mine. She said, it's not if Tim wins, it's when he wins. And that's what Jessica brought up in the immediacy of learning that Gloria had passed. And I don't know, if that's your story and that can't put a smile on your face, I don't know what can. So we will deeply, deeply miss Gloria, and send our most heartfelt condolences to her family, who she loved more than life itself, I think. I wanted to touch upon some items that we heard in the public comment tonight. The conversation that we've been engaged in has had at least some adjacency, both from folks in the public and here in the Horseshoe, to spirituality, faith. And that's not a grand part of my life, but I was raised that way. And I remember a lot of what I learned in those days. And I think we kind of go to the buzz phrases, love thy neighbor. What I remember about love thy neighbor, the Sermon on the Mount, was that one of the people hearing those words sought to clarify who was my neighbor. And the response was met with the parable of the Good Samaritan, the emphasis that my neighbor is whoever is in need. And so that's what I'm left with thinking tonight. I don't know if we've demonstrated love thy neighbor to the best of our capabilities. I also wanted to talk about the topic of pulling oneself up by the bootstraps. Somebody came up during public comment and shared their experience with broaching homelessness and recounted the fact that they were fortunate enough to avoid that by the skin of their teeth simply due to privilege, due to luck. I haven't brought this up before, but be in the same boat. My wife and I bought our first home in 2013 after we paid down what had seemed for years insurmountable debt that we'd gone into after losing 4 jobs on my front in 2008. And really breaking out the credit cards just to survive, which, for those of you listening looking for financial advice, is the worst way to do it. And we had a little left over. The only reason we were able to do those things was because my father-in-law passed away at the age of 58, maybe 7 months before my wedding. And I have to remind people this all the time, because a lot of people look at the situation that I was in then, really, really poor, and the situation that I'm in now. And they tell me, oh, well, you guys pulled yourself up by your bootstraps. No, we didn't. And I know that I'm not just speaking for myself tonight when I say that if we had the opportunity to get Nick back and trade it all, we'd do it in a heartbeat. And that's how adjacent we were to that situation, and that's why I feel so strongly about it. Because it really, when you look at those situations at their bare bones, it could be any of us. So I'll leave that there, and I will conclude by saying welcome. It's my new colleague, Alderman Gregg. I joked earlier tonight that since Alderman Moran left us for greener pastures in Ward 9, Ward 7 is back at the table. And I am so thrilled to see you here. I thought you have already given us a shining peek into the sort of alderman that you're going to be, so I'm looking forward to working with you. Welcome.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. The first thing I want to say is the Resource Center. That would not have been on the table if the mayor didn't put these ordinances out there. It was buried, and it's been buried for a while. Now it's coming out, and we're gonna work on it. It's not gonna come out tomorrow, but at least we got some things in the works to start to get it moving. So that's a positive that's come out of these ordinances, that we are looking forward to going. Otherwise, it was buried. It was not going to come out. We were going to do the same stuff we've always done every year. And at least now we're moving in I think, a better direction, at least when it comes to the Resource Center. I want to welcome Alderwoman at Large Gregg. I don't know what name you're going to go by. I'm just going by the tag right now. And is it going to be Alderwoman at Large or Alderman? I don't know.
It's Alderman, or just Alicia.
No. Alderman Gregg, thank you, and welcome to the board. Very exciting to have you aboard. The Veterans Day pancake, the Veterans Day parade was amazing. As always, it was extremely cold, but it was a good turnout from elected officials, and my son got to volunteer over at the Veterans, the pancake breakfast, so that was great. So lastly, obviously, Gloria, I got to sit next to Alderwoman Timmons for 2 years at the corner here, and I was her only neighbor for those 2 years, other than maybe Attorney Bolton occasionally. And she still had to shout over to him. But, she was a friend. It's heartbreaking to hear this news. I coached with her son, Al, and her 3 grandkids were on that team. And I always asked her to come and watch her grandkids play. And she said no because she was a curse. And I always got a kick out of that. I always tried to get her to go to watch her kids play. I'm like, they're so good. You got to watch them play. We're not going to lose. But she wouldn't go. But she was an advisor to me those first 2 years, a mentor. The things she had to go through when she was on the Board of Ed, some of the things that happened over there was just terrible. And she fought through it. And she's just an amazing woman. My thoughts go out to her family. It's been hard for me the last couple of weeks. I think about her every day. I'm going to miss her. I'm going to miss her calls. She's one of the few people that could call me and yell at me, and I wouldn't get mad about her yelling at me because she was probably 100% right. She kept me in check a lot of the time those first 2 years with a hand on my arm or a whisper into my ear. Now Trish has to do it. Alderman Clee has to do it. But I'm going to miss her, and that's all I can say. Thank you.
Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I did not raise my hand for 025-218, and I would like to be a sponsor of that ordinance. And I would also like to welcome our newest member, Alderman Gregg. I know it's not easy to have to fill the role of someone who has passed, but we both know she was one of the first people to approach you to run, so it seems fitting that the person who's going to sit in her seat would be you. She wanted you desperately, so I think that's a fitting seat, and I think you'll do a phenomenal job just based on today. And when I teased you about that you weren't going to make the next one, you immediately went in and found out about the Zooming, so it's nice to hear that you will be here, even if you'll be out of town. So I think that just shows how committed you are to this. I'd also like to send my condolences to Gloria's family. She was an incredible alderwoman. When she first got voted in, she called me and said to me, can I look to you for advice and so on? And I went, I'm not sure I'm the right person, but I'm always happy to answer any questions. And oftentimes we debated after a vote, why did you do this or why did you do that? And while I'd been on the board here a little bit longer than she had, I still felt like I was being schooled, that my mother was talking to me, and we would have many, many conversations. She is going to be missed. When I got that call at 7:45 that morning that she had passed, I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. She and my husband were both veterans in the Army, and she said to him one day, "Where's your veteran's hat?" And he said he didn't have one. Well, the very next day, he had one. Gloria handed me an Army veteran's hat, which I wore proudly in this last parade on his behalf. And Gloria, I felt like they were both with me. He loved her as much as I did, and I know she loved him as well. Alderman Lopez, I've never attended the Continuum of Care meetings, always had the intent of doing so, but it always felt like something came up. I'm going to try a little bit harder to be part of that, and I'm not going to say that I'll be there all the time, but I will try harder. So thank you for reminding us this. And tonight and the past few nights, there's been a lot of passion spoken about one side or the other, and the truth is, passion is a beautiful thing. Anybody who listens to me go on and on will hear my tears, hear my escalated voice, and so on. So I think it's good to be very passionate, and I think that as a group, as we leave this door, we are still friends, even if we're on the opposite side. And to that, I want to embarrass my colleague who'll be leaving, Alderman Moran, and to say you will be missed, your passion will be missed here, but I definitely think you should talk to someone about maybe being one of the newbies on the Board of Health. That might not be a bad, that might not be a bad thing. They may not like that, but you would have the passion and so on, and you worked hard. And I know you didn't work hard to get yourself on there, but I think it might be a good thing. I do want to go back to one thing that one of my colleagues said about the multicultural festival. It was a passion of Gloria's, and every year when it would come up, she would remind us, it's coming up, make sure you attend. And if you didn't attend, she would shame you at the next Board of Aldermen meeting, because it was a passion of hers, and she loved seeing all of us there. So I hope in her memory, and as well as because it's a good cause, that we all continue to do that, as well as the people out there. And to all the veterans, I wish you a happy Veterans Day, not just for November 11th, but every day. I thank you for your service. I know my husband didn't go in voluntarily. Uncle Sam came knocking, and he stayed in this country, and he served his country. So thank you very, very much. And Madam President, thank you.
Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, my condolences to Gloria's family. She and I spoke very often, and she was in my ward and would always call if she had concerns or guidance. And as I told Alderman Gregg, we used to sit right across from each other, and every time she'd come into the meeting, it'd be a smile, and we'd exchange pleasantries at the beginning of the meeting. And that will be sorely missed. And also, when I met with Alderman Gregg, I talked about the Gregg history in New Hampshire politics. Hugh Gregg was a close friend of my father's when he was governor, and my father worked on his campaigns, which is a long time ago. And I had a lot of interactivities with Judd Gregg over the years when he was governor and then when he was a senator. And so now I welcome Alderman Gregg, who serves us both in the state and now in the city. And congratulations, and look forward to working with you.
Alderwoman Kelly.
I love the seat when I have to go last, when everybody's said most of the things. But I also wanted to remark on losing Alderwoman Timmons. She will be greatly missed. Really an incredible force on the board and otherwise in our community. I also wanted to welcome Alderwoman Gregg, or she's going Alderman Gregg, sorry.
It's quicker.
It is a little quicker, but I just wanted to, I've gotten to know her very, very closely in the last few months, and her and Amber Morgan are just going to be incredible people to be on this board, and I'm proud to call her a friend, which happened very, very quickly over the last couple months. So welcome to the board. I'm going to just take up the religion thing because it was passed down to me. So here we are. I actually went to the UU Church about 5 weeks ago because I wanted to see the new building, and I've gone every Sunday since because I realized how much I needed community. Of people who, this is a great community, but I needed a different third space. I've really been enjoying it. And one of the things that they talked about that our colleague before was the Good Samaritan story. But the that was brought to us on that Sunday was that everyone tells that story as a story of like, oh, well, you didn't choose to help that neighbor or you did. But they added the layer that the journey from Jericho to Jerusalem, I think that's right. See, I'm not a church person. Here we go. Is 3,000 feet from sea level wise from one to the other. And so that road was very treacherous. So when you look at it with that lens, that it's not just who is stopping to help, but what are you willing to risk to help others? And I thought that was really powerful.
I too would like to send my condolences to Gloria's family. I was friends with Gloria, and we'd go out to breakfast with her and June Karen and have a lot of laughs. Gloria was a really great person. I'm going to miss her quite a bit. Other than that, committee announcements. Alderman Lopez.
Human Affairs is scheduled for next week. We don't actually have any legislative business. I was working with Environmental Health to see if they could give us more information on how people can access, express concerns about code enforcement and that kind of stuff, issues like that. But I will have to check with my members and make sure if we will have quorum for that. So I would say everybody check your emails and make sure we don't miss anything.
Other committee announcements? I don't have a committee announcement, but we have a special meeting on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, so be there, please.
Who's bringing coffee?
Who's bringing coffee? I think you just volunteered.
Oh, I guess I did. I'll bring donuts too. No pancakes though. No pancakes.
Alderman O'Brien.
No pancakes.
Rick is buying pizza.
Yeah, what about pancakes?
Depends how long it goes.
Whatever.
Oh, great, I like pancakes.
Sounds like we're gonna have like a.
I like pizza.
Alderman O'Brien.
Great.
You're up. Do you have a motion?
The best motion
I was
of the
thinking
night.
about the pancakes.
Tell him
I would like to make the motion that the November 13, 2025 meeting of the Board of Aldermen be adjourned by roll call.
Motion is to adjourn. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Gregg.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemens.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
14 yeas, 0 nays.
We're adjourned at 10:34 PM. Thank you, everyone. Oh, it's so early.